Hello and welcome back to Buried, an interactive story that Let's Play with near Rambler. Right then, let us begin Chapter 3. Apologies if you can hear the dogs barking in the background. A fancy control room. We follow Marcus into what I can only describe as a control room of sorts. There are countless computer screens, some of which are obviously coming back on from having been shut off. Everything looks extremely complicated, from screens filled with code and data to what is obviously a security system. It reminds me of a miniaturized version of the operations center in just about every space travel movie I've ever seen. Yes, all one of them. Marcus is running from one screen to another, apparently looking for some pertinent bit of information. "Where's the first aid kit?" I snap at him. Marcus stops in his tracks, as if he has forgotten the whole reason for bringing us down here. "Oh yeah," he said, rushing to the left side of the room. There he hunkers down by an opened panel in the wall, what I assume is the emergency vault from where he got the rifle. Right, well, I'll just look at the monitors. I trust him. I can make sense of very little that I see, mostly numbers, odd-looking maps and charts. Altogether, they show what I assume is the working, beating heart of the peculiar facility Dennis and I have stumbled into. Aside from the charts, there are scrolling numbers running along the bottom of the screen. Some are temperature readings, but that's all I can tell for sure. I see one screen in particular that I assume would mean bad news for anyone using these monitors for work. Failure, trial 142B aborted, error 4532-5, danger, anomaly detected. Marcus finally pulls out the first aid kit and turns around. When I look back to motion Dennis over, he's paler than ever. "Come on," I tell him, but he's not moving from the place on the floor where he sits against the wall. I slide the first aid kit over to him and go scrambling to his side. Between the struggle for the rifle upstairs and arriving in this room, he's faded fast. I struggle to lift his shirt up and then over his shoulders as the dried blood holds it in place. The mere act causes him to grimace. "This might hurt a little," I tell Dennis. He only nods. He doesn't seem to care. I'm going to pull it off gently. "You've decided to pull off Dennis's shirt gently. You may have killed him." I lift the shirt off gently and it makes a sucking sound. There's so much blood that the moisture tries to keep the shirt pulled to him. Dennis lets out a little moan but seems to relax in spite of his injuries. With the shirt fully removed, the extent of his injuries become more clear. His wound is more visible now, although it's partially hidden by the blood that has started to clot around it. My medical knowledge is slim. Basically just a bunch of basics I learned in Boy Scouts. Well, that's more than I know. I look over to Marcus hopefully and ask, "Do you have any training?" "Zero," he says. "Sorry." It's just as well, I guess. He's far too concerned with what's happening on the monitors to be of much help anyway. I start by taking out the several rolls of gauze, I think it's called, within the kit and wipe as much blood as I can away from the wound on his side. It's even worse than I'd figured from the start. The gash is deep and dark. I'm pretty sure it's infected too. He's going to need stitches, that's for sure, but I have no idea how to even start that. Besides, I don't see the tools for it in the kit. When I splash rubbing alcohol over the wound, he responds with a hoarse yelp of surprise, but nothing more. His eyes are locked on me, and he looks appreciative, but he's also scared. "Be honest," Dennis says hopefully. "How bad does it look? Do you think I'll live?" It does. I am going to be honest. We've been honest all the way through. There is no point. Oh, I don't know, having said that though, I mean, well, I can't remember what I did last time because I was drunk on cider. God damn it. I'm not drinking tonight, by the way. In fact, I haven't been drinking now for several days now. I'm trying to give my liver a well-earned rest. Because I know at first I was honest, and then he lied to me, and I called him out on his lies. And then yeah, because now we're in this new situation, as I was saying before. I was like, oh yeah, no, it's you know, it's like a clean slate. You know, we're in a different situation, so it's time, not like a reset of relationships, but it's like give each other a chance. I'm going to be honest with him. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not bullshitting him around. "Well, don't sugarcoat it," Dennis says. He looks defeated, but not really surprised. I keep quiet because I feel like I've already said enough. He rests his head against the wall and closes his eyes as I finish up. I place one layer of gauze against the wound and bind it with medical tape, and then reinforce it with the second layer. I know it's meagre, but it's all I can do. Shit, Dennis says. I'm a goner. This is a waste of time. His whole body deflates as he says this. I was going to say defecates, blimey, that's the last thing we need right now. Maybe I should have been a little more encouraging, but I didn't see the point in lying to him. Finally, I patched the bruises on my head a bit, cursing myself again for not grabbing my hard hat. I look back to Marcus. Oh, I like the fact the game keeps reminding me. Should have picked up your hard hat. Screw you, game. I look back to Marcus and he's already looking back at us deep in thought. My eye is starting to really swell up from where he kicked me earlier. Maybe I shouldn't have let him off so easy. Are these first aid kits all you have in this facility, I ask him? Well, if there's something better, I don't know about it, he says. I noticed then that his defensive posture is no longer there. Something is different now, just a slight change to his demeanour. He's seen something on the monitors that has him frightened, more than he already was before. What is it, I ask? What's wrong? His eyes travel round the room and it's obvious that he's trying to decide whether or not to tell the truth. Nah, spit it out, bro. Just what the hell is going on here, I ask, not even really sure I want to know the answer. His defiant gaze tells me that he's not going to be any help, so I decide to look around for myself. After a few moments, I see a few things that even I can comprehend hidden in the complex information on most of the screens. On one screen, I see what looks like a power meter that is slowly climbing upwards. A single message is flashing beneath it. It reads, "Unexpected power failure, foreign entity." Another message trickling along the bottom of the black screen says, "Safety locks on level 3 containment, doors engaged, override." Even computers can do questionable influxes in their tones. I see. Oh God, there was where I was going with that. I see still scenes on a few other screens that I assume are security cameras showing hallways and passages from elsewhere in the facility. One of them shows the first level hallway we were on just a few minutes ago. Another shows a hallway I don't recognise. The floor is covered in blood. From just off the screen, I see what I think might be a human body, but it's bent in an impossible way. It looks like the body's legs and torso have somehow been merged or melted into the floor. Right. I think we'll start with the systems. This place has backups for its backups, Marcus says. It's not ever supposed to suffer a full electrical shutdown. And what does foreign entity mean, I ask, hoping he has the same answer. I have no idea. That keeps coming off and on. Whatever it is, it keeps entering and exiting to set off the sensors. What the hell, I ask? There's something still happening? We're still in danger? He turns away, clearly feeling he has already said too much. Or fearing even. And as bad as that is, there's a scene on another monitor that makes my blood go cold, and my fears spike to levels somewhere near terror. Because your fear levels weren't near terror? The scene is very familiar. It's the logging site. The equipment is unmistakably mine. I can even see my truck. Something like fury starts to rise up in my guts, momentarily pushing aside the fear. For a moment I consider just tearing into him. A few punches and a shove against the wall. Nothing more. I want answers, and I want them now! But I'm not sure which would provide more answers. Asking calmly or kicking his ass. I think, again, if we question, because we weren't hard on him, if we question him aggressively, he's just going to shrug us off because he says you're a softie. So I think, again, I know as much as it seems counterintuitive, like if I was in that situation, I had a lot on the line, as Roger does, I would be a lot more emotional and probably go straight for the aggressive action. But since I'm not, and I'm being a third party here, I would question him calmly. And I think a lot of people would say that, but in reality, that's easier said than done. But this is not reality, it's a game, so we'll question him calmly. Could you please explain to me why you've been spying on my crew? My anger is prodding at me and I have to hold it back again. It's near the surface, demanding a release. It was part of my job, mine and a few others. Your crew has been watched ever since you set up your equipment. Why? Because you're working with heavy equipment, some of which digs into the ground, less than a mile from a secret government facility. I had no idea of that, I say. How could I have known? He gives me the same crooked, trembling smile that's beginning to creep me out. Because those things would draw attention to this place, he says. You have no idea how secretive this facility is. Besides, I know that the higher-ups looked into it. Your site isn't on government land. It's shy by about 300 yards. Every piece of your equipment is on private property, a timber tract you purchased from Mr. Gladstone 2 months ago. So even if we wanted to intervene and keep your crew away, we couldn't have without stirring up a fuss. The fact that someone with such a low-level clearance knows this much about my logging crew is unnerving. Well, if you've been watching us, why didn't you recognise us when we were in the hallway? I ask, or when we met in the hallway. He shakes his head and exhales, like it's obvious. The cameras have a bird's eye view. I can't see faces. We just track bodies and names. Keep calm. Keep calm. So since you have all this surveillance, do you know where the rest of my crew is? I do my best to keep my voice level, even though my impulse is to shout. Well, Marcus says, all of you were on site as usual before the incident. It'd been a few hours since I'd checked, though. They might have come near the facility, or maybe not, I don't know, he says. He says this casually even, like it's not important. Well, are they inside the facility, I ask? You have cameras everywhere, right? Do you see them? Marcus shakes his head. I've been looking all over, I haven't seen your crew, they aren't here. But, he adds, the lower levels don't have any cameras. Classified. I'm not sure how they would have gotten there, but it's a possibility. I'm still shocked that we were being watched. Do they know everything about us? I'm telling you, Marcus says, the depth of influence in this facility goes deep. There are 36 employees down here. What, really? Only 36 for a facility as big as this? Outside of these employees, only 5 of the people know this place exists. Right. Again, as much as we want to go mad, stick to calm, keep calm. At this point, you know, it's very unrealistic what we're doing, but even so, I'm calm. What do all these people do here? I ask, keeping my voice level. He doesn't even pause to consider if he should go any further. He actually laughs when he gives me the answer. I honestly don't know everything. Probably very little. But what I do know is that it is more than Black Ops. Well, what does that mean, I ask? There are scientists here who have been disowned by their own governments because of the nature of their work. Get it now? I don't. Not at all. But I don't want him to know about that. You said there were 36 employees, I say. Well, where are they now? He shakes his head. As far as I know, everyone else is gone. Well, gone where? He points to the screen that still informs us of the unexpected power failure and cringes. If this power failure was not corrected in time, there's no telling. But they're here in this facility somewhere, right? I ask, hoping someone will be able to help Dennis better than I can. I just don't know, Marcus says. They could be anywhere. Look, I say, furious with the way he's talking in riddles. I don't... God, Dennis says. I look over to him and he looks as pale as a ghost. He stood up and his eyes are locked on the monitor closest to him. What? I ask. He simply points to the monitor and then looks away. I look to the monitor and see the logging site. But more specifically, I see the overturned dozer and the legs sticking out from under it wearing work boots. Right where I left him. Tony. The fact of his death seems abstract almost, like it happened in some other world or a very long time ago. I already know you told me he was gone, Dennis whispers. But it's different actually seeing him. My God. Suddenly something blazes by the open door outside. The shape is fast and in shadow, but I'm pretty sure it's a person. Someone else is here, Marcus says, wheeling round. He sounds very happy to discover this, so I try to follow in his lead. If something bad had happened at this facility, then surely the sight of another survivor is a good thing. Right? Oh, we should check it out, he says. I realise this isn't the best moment to leave Dennis after revisiting Tony's death all over again. Someone just bound by the door, I tell him. Hopefully, it's someone who can help us. You're gonna be okay. It's fine. Go see who it is, he says, giving me a mock thumbs up. I turn to Marcus and motion for us to head out to investigate. Let's be careful, Marcus says. Depending on who it is, they might not be as hesitant to shoot a stranger as I was. Oh, I nod at him as I head for the door. I'm still holding the rifle in my hand, and I don't know if I have the guts to actually use it if needed. Oh, trust me, we'll use it if we need to. With a final look back at Dennis, I run out onto the second level hallway. So still not really fully clued in as to what's going on, but there's some sort of foreign entity maybe, a power failure that's really knocked things out. It's even shaken Marcus up a bit, because as he says, you know, they're supposed to have backups and backups and backups, and it all seems to have failed. They've been watching Roger and his crew, and by the sounds of Marcus's explanation, it kind of makes sense, really. Like, yes, from Roger's perspective, I would be really annoyed and upset and angry that someone's been watching us and not informed us of anything. But considering the nature of the situation, it wouldn't surprise me. But that's just me, not necessarily Roger, of course. So yeah, and I'm glad that we were honest with Dennis, and I'm glad that we told him about Tony's death, because I'm hoping Dennis, in whatever capacity he can help us now, if any at all, he's got our back. Obviously we don't know, but we'll see. Marcus follows. There is still fear in his eyes, but also the slightest glimmer of hope. That hope is contagious. We take off after the figure that just ran past the command centre. Ahead of us, the facility presents yet another long hallway. Right away, I notice that this level of the facility seems darker, even though the lights are now all on. The hallway is adorned with numbered yellow doorways and large white panels along the walls. It's clean and well maintained, but there's something ominous about it, like a dog shifting its eyes maliciously when no one's looking. Up ahead, I see the fleeting motion of something dark cutting quickly to the left down a corridor. There, I said quietly, pointing up ahead. Marcus gives a nod, and we continue chasing after the person we saw blazed by the command centre just moments ago. It then occurs to me that this person could be like Marcus was at first, armed and scared. Well, of course, let's shout at them! Hey you! Go over here! No, of course we're going to move towards them slowly. Why would you even make this as a choice? It should be based on the choice we made earlier. When we reached the intersection in the hall where I'd seen the shadow moving, I eased around the corner, just in case. Sure, I have the rifle in my hands, but I don't want to use it unless I have to. Check the safeties on. Make sure you do, bro. I quickly dart around the corner and take the same shooting stance I've seen countless times on TV. There's a woman standing there, about 10 feet away. She has reddish blonde hair and a small, mousy build. She looks terrified and is visibly shaken. She's probably in her late 30s, wearing a lab coat with dark jeans and green Converse low tops. Oh god, they are the worst kind. I have a strange sense that her fear is not just about our sudden appearance. She looks like a woman who's been running scared for a while now. Her hands are raised in surrender. She's not holding a weapon. Marcus slowly approaches, taking a few steps ahead of me. Amy, right? He asks. She blinks, seemingly surprised that he knows her name. Yes, she says. And you're Marcus. She nods absently and then looks to my rifle. This is a tough one because obviously by saying I'm not going to use it, no, we'll stick again. We're going with this. I mean, we're going with the Roger who's calm and will fight back, but only when he needs to. So since she seems scared and what have you, I think if it's a risk, but if we show an initial level of trust, it might be, reciprocated, and that's what we need. So no, I'm not going to use it. Only because I don't know how it works, but she doesn't have to know that. Now, how do I know that? She asks. You're trespassing on government property in the midst of a huge catastrophic event, and you have a rifle. How am I supposed to believe you? I have a friend back in the command centre who needs medical attention, I say, and we're looking for the rest of our crew. I'm really sorry, but I don't know where they are, she says. Do you know what's happened? Marcus asks. From the power outage? I don't know what caused it, she says, but there was an experiment taking place when the outage occurred. Something happened, and she trails off here, giving me a look of distrust. I saw things on the security monitors, Marcus says. The experiment failed, didn't it? I don't know the specifics, Amy says. I barely escaped the third floor. I was going to go to the command centre to see if the security footage showed anything, but then I saw you and the gun. Listening to their conversation, I'm feeling totally in the dark. Yeah, do you know what? It just sounds to me like, it's just one of those experiments where they're trying to do something to try and make something happen that happens in the universe but on Earth, like fusion or something. And then a scientist called Gordon accidentally rammed a trolley full of the exotic material that he needed to put in carefully right into the middle of the experiment, and it just went bananas and everything's all gone cocky-wocky. It happens, I know. I was there at the beginning. It's fine. Alright, well, instead of going, what experiments? Because that line of questioning, they just give us vague answers. Let's just say, well, how's you so scared? Might be a bit more honest and upfront with us. Amy looks to me, her eyes wide and terrified. Who are you anyway? She asks. I quickly give her my story. A logger stranded in the woods following a peculiar explosion at the logging site. It's fair enough, that's very succinct. As I tell her, recognition blooms in her eyes. You're one of the loggers. Yes, that's why I said I was a logger. She then looks to Marcus and says, I thought they were being watched. They were, Marcus says. This was a freak accident, and there's no proof that they were responsible. I feel myself wanting to submit to all of the questions that are pulling up in my head, but Dennis is waiting for me. Yeah, I think we should just... It doesn't really matter. Let's just see if we can get Dennis some help, because again, I need Dennis. I decide that despite my curiosity, I need to get Dennis help as soon as humanly possible. Look, is there medical help to be had here or not? I asked. Probably, Amy says, but you'd have to find Colonel Barksdale. He knows of where all of those sorts of supplies are. And where is he? Where is everyone else? I ask. At this, Amy starts to weep. She falls to her knees as if someone has struck her from behind. Go on, she says. Some were killed, and some were just... I don't know, they just disappeared in front of me. Disappeared? Yes, she answers. They were here 1 second and gone to the next. Just... She snaps her fingers together for effect. Gone! Something's here with us, Amy says. We were conducting an experiment and it all went horribly wrong. Something came through. Came through what? Marcus asks. I don't even know that much. An entity, but whatever it is, it's still here somewhere, Amy responds. How could you not know? Don't you have full security access, I ask? No, I have access to almost everything, but there are 2 levels of security beyond my clearance. Right, well what do you suggest we do now, I ask? I'm not sure, she says, wiping her tears away. But if you want to find your crew, we need to find Barksdale, he's in charge. Where is he, I ask? Down on the 3rd level in the hangar. Well, let's go, I say. It's not that easy, Amy says, again looking to the rifle in my hands. Why not? Like I said, something came through when the power went out. There's several of them, all roaming the 3rd level. Ooh. Well, I'm not going to be that blasé and say it doesn't matter. Mind you, though, what came through doesn't really help either, because she doesn't know. I think both doesn't really matter, but let's just say what came through. At least it means that we're trying to be as level-headed as possible. All I know is that the others refer to them as entities. She shudders as she recalls the horrors she has seen. I don't even know how to describe them. I didn't get a good look, she says. All I did was run for my life. Behind me, I just heard screams. I know it's not very scientific of me, but I didn't feel like sticking around to learn more. She's right, Marcus says, stopping my train of thought. The things I saw on the monitors, it was crazy. This is insane, I bark. I'm going to the 3rd level to find this Barksdale guy. Thanks for your help. Wait, Marcus says. I'm sticking with you. If we want to get out of here, we have to find Barksdale, right? Yes, Amy says. The Barksdale's on the 3rd floor, and it's too dangerous to go back there. I figured I'd let them make their own decisions. In the meantime, I start heading back to the command center to get Dennis. Before I get there, I heard their footfalls behind me, getting closer. I give Amy a questioning look, and she quickly looks away, clearly torn. Neither one of you know your way around here, she says. Looking for Barksdale on your own would be suicide. Like it or not, she has a point. Fine, I say. Then let's get Dennis to the command center and let's head down together. Despite the fact we might get torn apart by 3 random entities that tore everybody else apart. Fuck it, I've got a gun! America! Got excited there. We enter the command center and I'm happy to see that Dennis has regained some of his colour. We're going to get you some help, I tell him. And then we're going to go find our crew, get the hell out of here. More help would be great, he says. But the way you took an hour to get my shirt off earlier, I'm not letting you touch me again. What an asshat. Wait, Amy says. Maybe one of us should stay here with him. I'll be okay, Dennis says. He stands to his feet with a grunt. You don't know what's out there, Amy says. I saw them. I saw what they can do. This facility is not safe. Well, what can they do? Well, she said she didn't really see what they can do other than people were screaming. Let's just ask some sensible questions. Are there any of them on this floor? I'm not sure, she says, but they're down on the 3rd floor, so we'll need to be careful. Marcus looks a little hesitant, but he nods his agreement, and the 4 of us exit the command center. Heading back out into the hallway, I look back to the monitors. I take a final look at the screen that shows my wrecked logging site and feel a pang of sorrow. I look to the other monitors, showing live feeds of the facility's security cameras. I try to tell myself that I'm not looking for any sign of Amy's creatures, but I can't. That's exactly what I'm doing, and there's no need to pretend otherwise. We head back through the hall and towards the elevator. The tension exists between us. Oh, the tension exists between us is like a physical presence. Yeah. But, you know, not as bad as the fear and the terror of feeling for these entities going to tear us to pieces, but whatevers. We've got a gun! We step inside the elevator and those pristine doors close. Inside the elevator, Amy seems to become much more guarded and distant from us. I want to assure her that I mean her no harm, but I'm also not going to put the rifle down. So you have pretty high clearance in this place, right? I ask her. That's right. So what kind of experiment are we talking about? What went wrong? When she starts to answer my question, I can tell that it's something of a relief for her to get some of it off her chest. Oh, that's good to know. There's been a lot of work on a project taking place here over the last 3 years or so. The purpose is to find out if there's any real viable science behind point-to-point instantiation. I don't know how to pronounce it. Instantation, whatever. Like teleporting, I ask. Oh my god, Marcus says. I have no idea. Even I can't pronounce that word. I knew there was some weird stuff here, but nothing this insane. Well, it's not really all that insane, Amy says. We found our first major breakthrough about 9 months ago. We were able to transport a live rat from its cage on level 3 to a small lab in New Mexico, and the trip took the rat 5 seconds. Are you kidding me? Dennis says. I can tell he wants to sound as if he's mocking the idea, but he fails. He's scared. Not at all, Amy says. The problem was that when the rat arrived, its retinas were detached and its intestines were on the outside of its body. Oh. Did you ever perfect it? Well, about 6 months ago, we successfully made that same experiment. The rat arrived in great health, and this time in just 3 seconds. Still, one of the things that we needed to tweak in order to make the process completely safe was how to figure out how to keep the subject on a straight course. When the matter is being transported, not only are its atoms being unknit and then put back together upon arrival... unknit? I mean, I understand this. Yes, deconstructed and translated through space. It's the only way we know how to do this right now. But the issue, as I said, comes in keeping the deconstructed subject on a straight course to its destination. When the process occurs, we are deforming space-time. We're creating a shortcut through space, and that has risks. Why exactly, Dennis asks. Because there are many more dimensions in space than the 3 we exist on, she explains. There's some evidence that there are as many as 10. So when you send the rat to New Mexico, it's travelling through another dimension to get there, I ask? Basically. And because of that, we were trying to get a better understanding of what those other dimensions are capable of. Things that a great deal of the population would be scared of if they knew what we were doing, hence all the privacy. Then today, the power went out as we were right in the middle of an experiment. Something happened, I don't know what. She's speaking with the authority of someone who knows what she's talking about. What have you seen in these dimensions? Other worlds, other Tegmark universes, where our laws of nature don't apply, she says, not bothering to explain what that means. I'm not clear for such things, but I do get the reports. What reports? Marcus asks. I'm given access to the results of the tests. Oh, in other words, Marcus replies, clearly upset, you guys have been peeking into other dimensions and taking notes on what you see. I can't believe I wasted my life for this, he murmurs to himself. Looks like he's starting to freak out. Amy is quiet. Her expression indicates that she's waiting to see how I react to all this. You people are insane. Well, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, Roger may not be a scientist, but it is pretty incredible if you've actually been able to do that. So, and coming from a physics background, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, in no way am I trying to impress Amy by my admiration of her work or anything. So, this is like interdimensional stuff, I ask. In a way, Amy answers. Marcus, on the other hand, is incredulous. I don't want anything to do with this, he says. All this time I've been working for... He laughs cruelly, and the sound of it makes my blood go cold for a moment. Just a single level beneath my feet. You assholes have been tearing apart space and time, Marcus continues. When the elevator doors open, I can't get out fast enough. The tension is growing way too thick for my liking. Outside of the elevator, we step into what appears to be a massive industrial area. Carnage waiting for us is unlike anything I'd seen in the upper levels. So yeah, that's kind of cool then. So they've been looking at, being able to bend space and time. So you can travel long distances in a very short amount of time, because rather than travelling through space in time, you essentially bend space, or the 2 points, the point you're starting at and the point you want to get to, you bend those points as close to each other as possible, and then essentially you just step through. But as she was saying, in this particular world, the theory goes that when you step through, in that journey, you're going through not just the 3 dimensions of length, breadth, depth, and time. It's technically 4, really. But you're going through others that we are not aware of or don't exist in, except when you tear or bend space and time, you do interact with them. And it's those dimensions that they've seen and obviously made notes on, and assumingly that's where these entities have come from. They must have been able to get through, because they must have noticed that someone was travelling through, and they must have seen it as an opening to get into our area. Spooky! I don't know why Marcus is freaking out though. I mean, again, you know, obviously he's been in the dark, or at least we think he has been, but he's like, oh no, I'm going to be the bad guy now. Ha 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 ha. You're like, dude, chill, it's alright. But then again, he feels like he's wasted his time, so maybe he felt he could have been I don't know. Well, either way, he's pissed off for a reason. Oh look, blood. The area looks industrial, like everything was built for utility only. But more noticeable is that is all of the blood. Oh, sorry, but more noticeable than that is all of the blood. My god, I've never seen so much blood. Those creatures must have had a field day. They must have broken into the kitchen and stole all the tomato ketchup supplies and just squirted it everywhere. Ugh. Holy shit, Marcus says, looking like a man that just awoke from a very bad dream. How am I going to have my hot dog? There were more personnel in this area when the experiment went haywire, Amy says, as if the explanation makes it all better. The research you all do down here better be worth it, I'd say. We have to get moving, or we're going to lose our nerve. Amy, let's focus. Barksdale's in the hangar, I asked. If he's still alive, yes, that's where he'll be. Well, let's hurry, I say. As far as I can tell, Dennis is doing much better, but I'm beginning to grow tired of trying to keep my fear at bay. Between the blood on the floor, silence at level 3, and Amy's talk of the lab rats, I'm getting freaked out. I'll see. If I let Amy take the lead, she may be like, oh, you're going to sacrifice me. But if I say I'll go first, she'll go, yeah, but you don't know where you're going. So either way, it's a lose-lose. I mean, we're trying. He says, I'm beginning to grow tired of trying to keep my fear at bay. So obviously he's scared, and he's, you know, Roger's trying to keep him a brave face. We've sort of made decisions that sort of go with that. I think if we just offer to go first, at least, yes, we're still, you know, trying to keep our fear in, so it's not good for us personally, but at least then it shows we care and we're trying to be in control. It's hopefully raising levels of respect amongst everyone. Maybe I'm thinking too much, maybe that's all bollocks, but that's my thinking and that's what we're going with. So let's be the hero, even if Amy tells us off for it. She might not. The 4 of us start walking ahead with me in the lead. Oh, there you go, see, everything was fine. We start walking when we come to the remains of what looks to be 3 different people. It's hard to tell how many bodies there were because they've been torn to shreds and are distorted. 2 of the bodies look as if they've been fused together. Another man looks to have had his leg welded through the floor. I can see this man's face. He died in an abject state of horror, his mouth pried open in an internal scream. Lovely! Right, well, before we either investigate the bodies or keep moving, I'm just going to check the recording's going okay, and we'll carry on for a bit more. So, back in a mo. Okay, everything's going well. I mean, part of me wants to investigate the bodies, but I don't think that would do any good for anyone. Like, okay, it shows we're curious and we care, but I think it might make Marcus even more angry, or it might make Amy a bit more upset. I think we should just leave them alone. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's just keep moving. Stay focused. It's simply too much. Worse than that is the fact that we have just started our journey through level 3. If there's worse waiting up ahead, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. Dennis steps up beside me, and when he speaks, his voice is soft and flat. What the hell could do that to someone, he asks. Things I saw, Amy answers. They could do it pretty easily, I think. She looks pale, and I think that she may pass out at any moment. Tears spill from her eyes, and she's visibly shaking. But she soldiers on, looking back to me and stepping to the side of the gruesome carnage. or stepping to the side of the gruesome carnage. Her eyes again go to my rifle and she doesn't look very hopeful. You good to go? She asks me. We need to move on. But for some reason I can't take my eyes off the scene. My mind is reeling, trying to process it all. We just said to keep ahead! Yeah, let's go, come on! Consistency, bro. We leave the grisly site behind, moving into another equally destroyed area. From what I can tell, the next room was once an open area for experimentation. The place hasn't just been destroyed, it has been physically altered in a way that makes no sense. The girders look to have been warped, the very materials distorted and twisted. To my right, a machine has been catapulted and looks to have somehow merged with the wall rather than crashing into it. Beyond these phenomena, there is the standard violence I was expecting to see. There is a limp arm sticking out from underneath the wreckage, and more blood, and lots of ketchup. I see no signs of an explosion, which makes me wonder just how did this happen? Seeing the aftermath is sickening enough, but it makes me wonder if Amy saw it while it was happening. Again, let's stay away from the people for now. Let's not try and dehumanize anything, but let's just try and keep a level head. What happened to the girders then? I only caught a glimpse of it, she says. It was like trying to focus your eye on something that was too close. They just started twisting, but not creaking or breaking. It's like these creatures are able to deform matter. She pauses here, and that's when we hear something echo through the facility. It comes from behind us and slightly to the right. I'm not sure what it is, but it makes my blood feel like ice. Because we can't say blood goes cold again and just get repetitive. It sounds almost like static from an AM radio, but there's a high-pitched noise beneath it that I can't even start to fathom. What the hell is that? I ask, instantly clapping my hands to my ears. One of them, Amy says, her voice will whisper. One of the creatures. That's what they sound like, Dennis asks. I see he's leaning against the wall again, wincing at the noise. I suddenly realise that I have a death grip on the rifle, ready to shoot at the next thing I see. How far do you think they are? About 100 metres, she answers. Not far. Everyone seems to take this as the cue to start moving again. We make our way around the office wreckage, now with new purpose in our step. We barely make it to the other side of the room, approaching a dark hallway, when another high-pitched noise sounds out. This one's louder. Closer. We all share a terrified look, and I can tell that Amy is on the verge of losing it. I grip the rifle tightly as we head towards the hallway in front of us. I don't know if she's going to know if we can kill him or not. Let's keep focused. Stay focused. How much further to the hangar? Close, she says. It's just at the end of this hallway. Dennis speaks up, his voice like ice. Why don't we just haul ass then, huh? No one says anything after that, but I can feel the presence of terror around us, pressing in on us like some new violent gravity. Oh, so many adjectives, similes, and metaphors. Well, probably not metaphors, actually, but other English terminology words I've forgotten since A-level. The small utility hallway is well lit. It looks as if it was designed to only be used by select maintenance workers. What goes on in this area, I ask. I'm looking at Marcus as I ask the question, but he only shrugs in response. She might know, he replies, pointing to Amy. I've never been down here before. Oh, it's just a utility hallway, Amy says, but at the end there's a maintenance room. There should be a gun or two in there. It's also the most direct path to the hangar entrance. As we walk quickly and quietly down the hall, I take a glimpse ahead and feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. The lights become more sparsely spaced, and it's impossible to see just how far even, the hall extends into the darkness. This hallway has the occasional trace of bloodshed, but nothing like the main area we've come from. We continue farther down, and just as I begin to see what looks like a large metal door further ahead, I hear yet another shrill sound. This one sounds farther away, but no less demonic. How many of those things did you see? Dennis asks Amy. 3, but that's just what I saw. There could be more. What did they look like? Dennis asks. Yeah, what are we dealing with? This time, let's stick with it. I don't even know how to explain them, she says. Monsters. That's the only word I can think of. My mind seemed to struggle just trying to understand what I was seeing. They're big, and they seem to jerk around every few feet or so. They look like they're made of light. That's all I know for sure. You know, my ex-husband always said, I'd let my work kill me, she continues, seemingly unable to stop herself. I mean, I doubt he imagined this exact scenario, but still. As we make our way to the hangar doors, another high-pitched noise rings out. Angrier now. It's her ex-husband. He's there to prove her right. Or prove him right. Amy stops walking, causing all of us to stop and turn to her. We have to do something to slow those things down, she says. No, Marcus snaps. There's no time. We need to distance ourselves and get to the hangar. Fast! Amy ignores him, deep in thought. There's an old hydraulic door set into the wall right here, she says. It hasn't been used for years, though. She looks to me, pleading her case. Together we might be able to pull it closed behind us to keep those things back. Yeah, well, those old hydraulic doors weigh a ton. There's no way it'll work, Marcus says. Roger, Amy says. What do you think? I have a harder time getting to us if those doors are locked. Look, Marcus shouts, turning to me. We need to get to the hangar now. I think not because it's Amy's sake. To be fair, she says she thinks that they're made of light, so they can't go through anything. They can reflect, or they can I mean, when you say, oh, well, they can go through glass, then light goes through glass. Well, it doesn't really. It's sort of like it does what they call internal reflection. So it goes in, gets absorbed by electrons, and then electrons emit it back out again. So it's sort of going through, but it gets absorbed, re-emitted, bounces off other particles. It's a bit weird. It does slow it down. I mean, not enough that we make notice a difference, but if you were to measure it, it does slow light down from, like, you know, as close to the speed of light as it possibly can get to quite a small, you know, quite a shorter speed. I think going to the hangar would be better, but then again, Amy's smart, and this is a tough one. Trouble is if we get to the hangar and Barksdale isn't there, then those creatures are coming for us, and we will have less time to react. We could lose people. Then again, doing this action might go wrong and we could lose people now. Either way, we're going to lose people. So I think we should just see if we can take the chance where there's a possibility we won't lose anybody as quickly, or we'll buy ourselves some time at the very least. So yeah, sod it. Let's stop and try and close the doors. We might as well. Damn it, Marcus says. We don't have time for this. Sometimes thinking on the spot is good. Sometimes we have to think a little ahead. Amy ignores him and starts feeling along the hallway wall for a groove. Dennis and I start looking as well. A minute passes. Then I see a small metal frame that runs from the floor to the ceiling. Is that it? I ask. Yes, she says. I look to the floor and see an old metal track that runs along the frame. Let's move it, I say. Amy, Dennis and I start pulling as hard as we can, but it barely budges an inch. Behind us, that static noise rings out again. My heart seems to stutter. Marcus lets out a little whine. We're running out of time. We need to go. Marcus screams as things are getting closer every second. Well, then help us, Marcus. It won't make a difference, he says. We shut up and help us, and then we'll find out, I shout. Reluctantly, Marcus walks over and grasps the door. We all groan as we strain to pull. It starts inching slowly, and then begins more steadily, or moving steadily. Once we get it started, it slides easily. As we near the wall, closing off the hallway behind us, I think I can see the merest glimpse of an odd illuminated shape in the darkness. It's cut off by the slight thump of the hydraulic door being pushed against the frame and the opposite wall. Amy turns a lock into place. Great, now let's haul ass, says Marcus. We all turn and we get moving again, still feeling unsure about our prospects. The fact that yet another shrill noise sounds out elsewhere in the facility is not calming. And then there are two of them. It's almost like they're calling out to one another. The doors to the hangar sit up ahead like the entrance to some enormous labyrinth. Oh, we might have just closed off our exit. That's not good. No, the music hasn't changed much. When we reach the hangar doors, I get a true sense of how impenetrable they are. A computer terminal is mounted on the wall nearby and has a blinking red light. Any idea what this means, I ask? It's an automatic lock. A failsafe from the lockdown, says Amy. I've never been down here before, Marcus says. If I'd have known this door was here, I would have opened it earlier. How? Amy asks. The fear in her voice is more present than ever. Well, from the command centre, he says. You need to override from there first, then use this terminal to open the hangar doors. The command centre on the second floor, I ask. Well, yeah. Duh. Amy shakes her head and lets out a nervous laugh. Are you kidding me? She asks. We just pulled that hydraulic door and blocked off the hallway, remember? Well, if we want to get into the hangar, we have to get back to the command centre, Marcus says. Isn't there another way possible? Isn't there another way? Turning to Marcus, Amy replies, well, there is another elevator, but we'll need to go through biochem storage. Well, I need to stay with Dennis so he can rest, I say. You two go. You know your way around this place, and you know the controls, Marcus. Fine, Marcus says, but we'll need to be armed. Ooh. Ooh. This is a toughie. This is a toughie. Because Marcus is losing it a bit. We've disobeyed Marcus with the shutting the door, and we have now just made it harder for us to now go to the command centre. If we give Amy the gun, she will be more trusting of us, but it will only anger Marcus more, and Marcus might be able to get it off her anyway, because he's obviously, not because he's a man or anything, but he's obviously a bit more combat orientated, if that makes sense. Not that Amy couldn't handle herself, but I think I just from what we know of the character so far, only going by what we know, I think Marcus will get the gun either way, and I think giving Amy the gun would be the trusting thing. But I don't want to piss Marcus off, and if Marcus is already upset with us, he's going to betray us anyway. And I'm not saying this because I know the story, because it's been years since I watched Markiplier's LP of this game. I cannot remember the story all the way through. I'm just making sort of guesses here. I'm going to give Marcus the gun. I hand Marcus the rifle and he turns to go. Amy gives me a concerned look, but follows along behind him. Once Amy and Marcus make it a good distance down the hallway, Dennis lets out a nervous laugh. And then there were two, he says. Dennis looks much better, but he still needs to use the wall to stay standing. Didn't Amy say that there were guns and emergency kits in the maintenance room near the hangar doors, I ask? Yeah, I think so, Dennis says, looking exhausted. I look ahead and see a door to the right that reads maintenance. Well, I might as well give it a try. I go to the door, try to open it, and find that it's locked. Well, kick it down may work, but you'll make a noise. Push it with your shoulder. It might still make a noise, but it might be a bit more controlled. If you push it with your shoulder, you're not going to thrust it. I give it a hard shove, but it doesn't budge. I'm about to try again, but that's when I hear the dry choking sound from just down the hallway. It's barely audible, but it's not my imagination. My first thought it's one of those things. One of the monsters. But after calming my nerves and reassessing, it sounds more like a person. I think about how angry and on edge Amy was when she turned to leave, as well as how scared Marcus had looked. Alarm bells sound in my head, and before I know it, I'm heading back down the hall, away from the hangar doors. Stay here, I'll be right back, I whisper over my shoulder to Dennis. See if he can figure out how to get into that maintenance room. Where are you going, he asks. I don't bother answering him, as I bound through the door to where Amy and Marcus went. Uh-oh. I might have killed one of them. But now the music has changed, and there's still blood on the floor. And ketchup on the door. As I enter the biochem room and start walking between the massive silos, I wonder what classified chemicals could be inside of them. I am fully expecting one of Amy's creatures to come flying out from the intersection of halls up ahead. I think I hear something. A skittering noise, like something moving quickly. I run ahead so fast that I almost trip over two people in a life or death struggle. My mind tries to process what I'm seeing, but it makes no sense. None at all. Marcus is on the floor with Amy pinned beneath him. He has the rifle at her throat, pushing her down on the floor and choking her with it. Her face is turning purple and her eyes look like they might pop out of her head. Marcus sees me coming out the hallway, but acts as if what he's doing is perfectly normal. This time I'm just going to stop him. I mean, we might get shot, but yeah, I'm going to stop him. that he's gone mad. I start rushing towards him before I really know what I'm doing. I bring my fist down and a hard arc across the bridge of his nose, and I'm rewarded with a sick cracking sound. He cries out as he falls to the ground, looking at me as if he doesn't understand why I punched him. On the floor, Amy clutches at her neck and gasps for breath. Yeah, she was going to die, basically. I start to fear that I was a moment too late, just to see that the rifle had been thrown across the floor. Marcus seems to notice this at the exact same moment as I do. Go for the rifle. Marcus is probably going to beat us to it. We both go for the rifle at once. He takes a single stumbling step towards it, wobbling a bit from my punch. I dive for it, and when I hit the floor it feels like I'm a baseball player trying to steal third. Our hands both fall on it, but when I yank it away, he manages to kick me, knocking the rifle to the floor again. The kick catches me squarely in my ribs, knocking the breath out of me. What the hell are you doing? He yells at me. By killing her, I'm saving us. All of us was her fault. I sense that he truly believes this, but if that's the case, then why not just shoot her rather than strangle her with the rifle? The answer is simple. We would have heard the gunshot, and all those things would have come running. He wanted to kill her quietly. And then what? Would he have done the same to Dennis and me? It seems fitting, really. When we first came upon Marcus, he held a gun on us. I'd been so relieved to see another human being that I underestimated just how unhinged he was. Marcus and I both dive for the rifle, still laying on the floor, start wrestling for possession. I'm not confident, however, I'll come away with it. As we struggle, he starts inching the muzzle of the gun towards my face, a position I do not want to be in. I start pushing back hard. But if this thing accidentally fires, I'm not sure where I'd prefer the bullet to go, especially in this room full of chemical tanks. Arg. Ooh, so I could potentially kill Marcus, or I could hit the tanks. I think this is a hard one, because logically it would be, in that situation you would just aim it towards Marcus. That literally that's what you would do. It's like you're in a life or death situation, your instincts would be kicking in, you'd be moving the gun towards Marcus and hoping to pull the trigger and kill him. That is that. And if we move the muzzle towards the tanks and it shoots the tanks, it's going to release chemicals which could badly damage all of us. And okay, Marcus would know that we weren't trying to kill him, but it means that if we do get away from him, we can't go through the biochem room to go back to Dennis afterwards. And if the things start catching us or going after us, we could hit the tanks like then when we're being chased by them, and not block off a route of escape or even a passage. Sod it, going towards Marcus. I grunt as I push the muzzle to point towards his face. Realising he's literally looking down the barrel of the gun, he ducks his head out of the way. This makes him lose leverage, allowing me to yank the gun from his grip. I get to my feet as quickly as I can, swinging the rifle back around on him. For a moment I think I've knocked him out, but his eyes flutter and he looks at me as if I'd betrayed him. Her people, he says. It was them that did this. She deserves to die. She did this! I look to Amy and wish I could help her. I'm relieved to see she's managing to draw in a few breaths. Her legs move as she tries to push herself to a sitting position. You wouldn't know, Marcus says. You didn't work here under the secrecy. You don't know what it's like to... He surprises me by lunging at me, leaping from the floor like a human projectile. I don't have time to aim carefully. I have to react fast. I see where Marcus is coming from. I really do, because at the end of the day we were angry that this facility was monitoring our logging site, our people, and Amy knows about it, so she's in on it, and therefore you could say, well, yeah, she's been doing this and you're just helping her and letting her get away. Look what she's done to your people. But Amy, I don't think Amy and the facility have intended to hurt Roger and his people. They didn't intend for this to go wrong. They knew risks were at hand, but it wasn't their intention. Yes, you could argue, well, it doesn't matter because things have gone wrong, and you know, it is her fault this has happened. But I would only take it more personally if I felt that this was being deliberate, like they deliberately mess things up and they deliberately cause all these problems. This isn't personal, this is just science. But, you know, that's how I feel. Even if people that I knew and cared for were affected, I think I would be upset and angry, but I wouldn't say that they personally did it. They just, they took risks. Yeah, it sucks, but they took risks. I can't hate them. I can't personally hate them or get angry at them for that. I can be upset and angry at what's happened afterwards, but I can't be angry at them for that. So it's. I mean, it's. I've got to react fast, and I'm taking so long making a decision here. If I try to dodge, he might get the gun off us and get the upper hand, but then he might go away. If I shoot him, I might miss and hit the tank. Or if I do shoot him... I mean, I did point the gun at him. I did point the gun. I was ready to kill him. Shoot him. I react before thinking. My muscles take over, my finger squeezes the trigger. The blast is deafening. As I watch Marcus fall to the floor, a terrifying thought races through my mind. If some of those things are here and they didn't... Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, oops. Oh, I shot him in the shoulder. His right arm dangles loosely, already covered in blood. He roars in pain on the floor. Only after a few moments I realise that they are not purely screams of pain. The bastard is calling for them. Calling for those creatures to come for us. Yeah, I forgot about that. This place is evil, along with everyone involved. He wails from the floor. If you are taking her side, then you deserve to die too. If you want to stop me, you better do it now, you coward. The rage in his eyes at Amy, as well as towards me for stopping him, makes me think that he'll deliver on his threat. I raise the rifle again, every urge in my body wanting to make sure he doesn't come back to bite us. But I'm not a violent man. I could easily not kill him and just leave him behind. Well, I did shoot him. And we are talking about consistency. To be fair, even if we kill Marcus, we've still made a noise. And you know what? Just because we aimed the gun at his face and shot him in the shoulder doesn't mean we have to carry it out. Sod it out with. But the first shot to his shoulder has been instinctual. I can't bring myself to deliver a kill shot. I ignore him and lean down to Amy. You okay, I ask? She nods slowly. Have to go, she says, her voice raspy. They'll be here any minute. Too much noise. I have to hold her arm so she can get to her feet. We start forward and then I think of Dennis. We should just go back to the hangar doors, I say. I can't just leave Dennis there. There's no time, Amy says. You'll need to come with me up to the command centre now. We'll be back for him soon. You're all dead now anyway, Marcus shrieks. If they don't get you, I will. He laughs manically after saying this. Hooting like a madman. As if in response, a high-pitched noise tears through the hallway. I seem to feel it in my bones. They're following his noise now, Amy says, her voice still weak. She takes off away from Marcus, presumably towards the other elevator she had mentioned moments ago. I follow her. As we move out, I hear Marcus slowly push himself off the ground and stumble off, slipping between the tanks and disappearing. We start running, and after the first few strides, another noise sounds out. It sounds mechanical, but at the same time it also reminds me of recordings I've heard of whale songs. A sound of metallic creaking and crashing echoes to the door I came in through. They've reached the hydraulic door we pulled, Amy says, confirming what I'm thinking. The sound grows louder as it's clear they're struggling with it. Which is good, we have a bit more time. Well, that paid off for us then. I speed up my step to follow Amy as she leads the way to the other elevator. She's panting furiously but pushes on. I can hear something rattling in her breath, likely the result of Marcus's attack. This makes me imagine how his cold and caring eyes must have looked, staring down at her as he tried to deliver her to death. How she's still forging on is beyond me. I'm sorry about Marcus, I say. It's not your fault, she interrupts. When you handed him the gun, you didn't know he would use it on me. I just hope we can find a way to survive this mess. Yeah, don't say anything. Let's just be honest. We both keep our eyes fixed straight ahead. Better stay focused. We finally come to the elevator. At the end of a row of silos. The elevator doors slide open slowly. At that moment we hear something behind us. A strangled sort of whistling sound. We step inside and turn around to face the biochem room. Thankful we've been given a few moments to spare. The elevator doors remain open for 3 seconds before they start to slide closed again. In those 3 seconds, I see a large shape floating towards us. A phosphorescent-like white glow outlines an impossible shape. Behind it, I see another shape that's also entered the biochem room. And another. The third one breaks away from the other two. Taking a quick right, it moves with eerie speed. That is the direction Marcus had gone. Honestly, the thought of them hunting him down doesn't bother me in the slightest. Amy is pressing the button to close the elevator doors over and over, but they stay open for what seems like an eternity. I curse whoever designed those damn doors. Do you know what? We couldn't shoot Marcus, but we can shoot some entities. We can't go anywhere, I figured, so no use in hiding. I take a step and stand firm in the elevator. I hold the rifle steady, ready to fire, and that's when I see them in a clear light for the first time. I can see their features, their shape and their colours, but my mind can't quite process it all. Nothing about them makes any sense. My eyes try to see a squid, but that's not what those things are. They're grey and white and seem to be nothing more than squirming light. Their appendages are neither legs nor tentacles, but somewhere in between. They don't walk on those appendages, but use them to glide. They move like ghosts and seem to jerk every few feet or so. But I'm pretty sure that this jerking effect is not a result of their moving, but my mind's inability to understand how they are moving exactly. It's also more than their appearance that makes a mockery of reality. The light around them seems to bend inward, as if the space within the room has to reshape itself for their existence. That peculiar effect on the air makes their movement seem like something moving underwater, only faster. They screech in unison as they rush towards the elevator. They'll be inside here in another few seconds. I check the rifle and see that my ammo is diminishing. I have to start saving my shots. I'm going to have to be choosy. I mean, they're coming towards us. They're going to kill us, aren't they? So then again, we might need to shoot Marcus later. I'm thinking ahead, you see. No, don't shoot. They keep advancing. Even though I know the doors may not close in time, I manage to keep my cool and avoid firing off any more rounds. My finger itches to pull the trigger, but I resist. I'm not even sure if a gun would affect them. That's my logic. Finally, the elevator door closes. Creatures wash against the other side of the door, making an electrical noise and crying out in anger. The tips of their spider-like appendages poke through the wall and elevator door, but for some reason they can't get all the way through. Amy screams at this and curls into a ball in the far corner of the elevator, crying. I say nothing to her. I just cling to the rifle, hoping those creatures don't find Dennis as he waits by the hangar doors where I left him. For his sake and ours, we need to get them open now. Yeah, I'm starting to regret not shooting Marcus now. I should have shot him, but at the same time it makes things interesting, you know? He's going to come back to bite us, but we've saved ammo for the gun, so I have prepared for future consequences. There you go. So I made a mistake, but I've prepared for mistake to bite me in ass. That's how logic works. Alright, let's see our statistics then. I'm excited. The blunt truth. You and 41% of players told Dennis his prognosis was grim, so we're in the minority. Slow them down. You and 35% of players sided with Amy on pulling the hydraulic door. Hell yeah! Again, minority. Who to trust? You and 31% of players gave the gun to Marcus. Yeah, well, I could see that going the way that it did. Murder or mercy? You and 58% of players left Marcus alive, so it's nearly 50-50. Now or later, you and 68% of players conserved your bullets for later instead of shooting the creatures. Again, kind of makes sense, really, because although it would be better to shoot them, as in, like, it appears that we're doing something, I just believed, in terms of the narrative, that the doors were going to close. If I didn't know that, if I was actually there at the time, I would have shot him, just because I wouldn't know that the door was going to close. But since this is a narrative fiction, there's a bit of suspense, of disbelief. So yeah, so not exactly, not exactly impulsive or instinctive in any way, but because I've let Marcus live, yeah. Anyway, that was chapter 3. I'm going to end the video here for today, so I don't know if it was any longer or shorter than normal, because I don't really generally time these things. They're usually an hour or so, but whatevers, because that was quite a long chapter, and we've got 2 more to go. And I've still got some more prep work for this other Let's Play that I'd like to get started on. Although, I promise before I get started on that Let's Play, if of course it actually works, because it uses old technology, we will finish off Tales of Berseria before we start that new LP. So, I haven't forgotten Tales of Berseria. We will be finishing that soon. The only reason why I'm not doing it now is because I don't know how long that last video is going to be. I'd like to. It could be 2 videos. It could be 1 video. I just don't know how long it's going to take. I've got a feeling it would be at least a couple of hours. I might just want to do it all in one sitting. It just depends. And depending on how the game plays as well, it may be that I have no choice but to do it all in one sitting because of the narrative and the way the game will let me stop, save, all that sort of stuff. In other words, for editing and recording purposes. Either way, I enjoyed that. So yes, next time, chapter 4. We've still got ammo in our rifle. Dennis is still alive. Marcus is pissed off, but still alive. Amy is with us, and she's forgiven us for not trusting her. And we've seen the creatures, and we don't know what they are, but they bend time and space. That's great. And they want to eat people, because why not? It could be that they don't want to eat people. It might be that they just do things. They're not eating people or anything. They're just gliding around trying to make sense of things. That would have been a bit more scarier. So you don't know that they're doing that. So you've got that unsurety of whether they're going to eat you or not. But I suppose it wouldn't be a proper horror game if they didn't try to eat you. Anyway, still enjoying it. So thank you very much for watching. If you have done, take it easy, stay safe, hope you're all well, and I'll see you for the next video. And until then, bye for now.